Welcome back to Midlife Crisis. Today we're going to take our second visit to see another neighbor's garage and see their eclectic collection of amazing cars. Sit back, relax. I hope you enjoy it. Here we go.
You can't buy these. That's tubing that I had to bend into shape, and then I had to make templates, and then I had to cut the templates out, and then I used a sheet of plastic, and then I used to make a diffuser, because there's LED lights behind there that light up the bands, and then so that diffuses out the light because there's LED strips behind it, and then I had to cut the metal with a jigsaw, and so again it's all hand custom done. The boxes that go on the side of the car. In the movie, they carved them out of wood. And there's somebody that had access when they restored what they call the A car from the first movie, which is where when Doc pulls the time machine out of the back of his van in the mall parking lot, right. They actually restored that car. They had 6 or 7 cars that they used for the movies. Okay. There's 3.5 still in existence, and I say 3.5 because one of them, which was one of the cars that was hit by the train, somebody bought the body panels from that car, and so they're kind of like on a jig to where it looks like it's a car. Gotcha. But it was just completed, and they paid $500,000 just for the body panels. Oh my gosh. There's another car that was called the Oxnard car, that's at Universal Studios in Florida, and then the A car, which is kind of the hero car, that's the one that's in the Peterson Automotive Museum. They restored that a few years ago, but during that restoration process, a lot of the parts, they made molds of those parts. So I was able to get a hold of some of those molds, but then you have to paint them and cut all the metal for them and put all the nuts and bolts and parts and pieces. I mean, everything is custom fabricated. I mean, these are capacitors, right? But the way that they sit and the wires, I mean, from the way the wires turn to the number of coils they have to the way the wires bend, I mean, the number of zip ties, if there's a 10 or 12 gauge yellow wire and a 18 gauge blue wire and a 16 gauge red wire, and they're twisted this way or that way. I mean, it probably took me an entire afternoon just to do one wire run to make sure that I had the right number of zip ties and that they were cut in the right spot and that was facing the right direction. I mean, it's... You're just going off of pictures from the movie? Yeah, and just blowing stuff up and that kind of level of detail. So is there restorals that are like movie 1 versus when they, that were, with the rod and everything for getting the bolt of lightning versus this obviously is from... This would be representative of the way the car looked when it came out of Doc's van in the very, kind of first scenes of the first movie. Okay. And then it, kind of towards the end of that's when they put the lightning rod on there, right? When they caught the cable and the lightning hit the clock tower. And then at the very end of the first movie, when Doc comes back and Marty's there with his girlfriend, he's got his Toyota, Hilux 4x4. In that one, that's where they have the Mr. Fusion on the back. And in fact, I have the Mr. Fusion. That's a part that you could buy already done. There was a company called Diamond Select that back in 2015 for the 30th anniversary of the movie, they actually produced these things. But I wanted the plutonium chamber version because that's just a lot more detailed. The Mr. Fusion version, what they did is they put a metal aluminum plate and they took this piece off, and this is a hubcap off of a Dodge Polara, and in the movie they used a hubcap off of a Dodge Polara. Oh, wow. But what they did is they took this piece off and they took off some of these hoses and they basically just put like a metal plate over the back of the car, and so it just doesn't look quite as cool. It's not all these cool parts and features aren't there with the Mr. Fusion. They get covered. Yeah, I mean, it's just a metal plate, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to have it to where it has all this really cool detail. And then what I'm going to do is make that like a conversion kit or something? Well, so rather than just get that metal plate, okay, because 99.99% of the people would never know. So here's another hubcap off a Dodge Polara that hasn't been painted. yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and mount that Mr. Fusion onto here. I'll put the plastic diffusion material, paint it, and then that way, when I kind of want to switch between versions, I just pop that off, pop this on, and it's not going to be 100% screen accurate with the Mr. Fusion sitting on here like this, but it'll be a heck of a lot easier to store than a big metal plate, and I think it actually will look a little bit cooler.
That's incredible. I mean, it's the amount of detail that you. So how far in the restore would you say you are? I mean, you said you still have some interior stuff to do.
It's done.
Okay.
It's done. You know, in fact, I have my first event with it next month, and I mean, it's finished.
Okay.
But you know, it depends on how far somebody wants to take it, right? I mean, for me, I want it to be absolutely exact. So I want all those wire runs in there to be absolutely exact. So you know, I'm just kind of taking it to a different level. But I mean, the car is, you know, everything kind of runs on its own little power source. But you know, there's the
flux capacitor.
The flux capacitor, and here. And this is they call the SID, or the Cascade display. Now, what I want to do is wire these up to a 12 volt power source. Right now, they're just running on these little 9 volt batteries.
Gotcha.
Same thing for up top. These are the overhead console. So as an example, you know, but Christmas and everything kind of just got in the way, and New Year. But I had to build all of these. Let's see. Let's get a little power. And this stuff is actually like in, there we go. That's in Doc's handwriting. All those buttons, switches, that's actually...
How'd you get, I mean, is it like you printed it off of something, or?
Well...
is there a source that had them for you?
So I basically just froze the frames in the movie and...
Printed it out and cut it out?
Well, just by hand, just got it as close as got it as close as I could. But you know, these are all... And you know, there's more banks of switches back there that are kind of hard to see, but there's, you know, 3 separate banks, and you know, everything works.
You did incredible, man.
So, but I mean, again, this box didn't exist. This is something that I custom fabricated. I made custom water slide decals. There's capacitors in there. This is a battery terminal switch cleaner off of a from Pep Boys,
right?
And so you take out the metal wire brush guts, and then I put a bolt through there. And this is a Dayton electrical switch. This is a project box from Radio Shack. But that's what they really used,
right? Because you just made it out of home parts.
Yeah, they just, you know, the prop masters and stuff. That's what they did. That's how they made these things. And you know, obviously the time circuits and everything over there. But yeah, I mean, everything is custom fabricated. I mean, this I bought from a gentleman in France that makes these, and just, you know, a big nerd, kind of like me, and you know, he makes that Cascade display, and so I bought that to put in. I made these. These are, you know, just heat sinks that I tinted gold and made little custom decals for it, so they match exactly what they had in the movie, and you know, got various capacitors and wires. But I mean, it's...
How much phrase framing did you have to do to get the detail?
I mean, just an ungodly amount.
Okay, I mean, just to zoom in, find that angle, had to have been a whole lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, it took a year and a half from the time I got the car to the time I finished the car.
Okay.
But it probably took 6 months of just pure research. And what is this?
Finding out how you were to do it and everything.
How do I make this? How do I do that? And then, you know, once I collected all the parts and bits and pieces that I need to assemble to make everything, then it took, you know, a good 9 months just of building things. You know, something like this. That is something from a mold, and you know, that probably took 3 weeks of work just to make this one little top piece. You know, it's interestingly, it's a speaker grill from Pioneer Speakers, but that's what they really used in the movie. They used a Pioneer.
So I've been told that there's that Tony Parker has one.
He did.
He did. Okay.
And apparently he sold it.
Okay.
But he bought his from a guy by the name of Video Bob out of Dallas, and Video Bob has done about 33 Time Machine replicas.
Oh, wow.
So he bought his already prepared, and Video Bob sells those things for about 125 grand a piece. So.
Because what does the DeLorean run base?
Well, so they've gone up a lot in value in the last few years. You know, what tends to happen with collector cars, right, is that, you know, there's that saying, you can't sell a young man an old man's car. and so the stuff that's really just fallen off the value curve is like Model Ts and things like that. I mean, they practically give them away. You could pick up a beautiful Model T for less than $10,000, right? The stuff that's really, and of course, you know, your guys, Duesenbergs and things like that, they're always going to have their value. But, you know, but like a lot of the stuff from the 20s and 30s is just... You know, because the people that care about those cars, I mean, they're literally not around it.
That was their classic cars when they were growing up in the 50s, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and you know, even the stuff from the 50s is starting to go down. The stuff that it's still at a value peak is, you know, the late 60s, early 70s muscle cars. But what's really picking up is, you know, 70s and 80s stuff. I mean, you know, C10 Chevy trucks, classic Broncos. You know, Buick Grand Nationals.
Anything 70s 4x4 right now.
Yeah.
It's really hot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, IROC Zs from the 80s. I mean, just... You know,
I wish I would have kept mine.
Yeah, Smokey and the Bandit Trans Ams. I mean, all that stuff is just going crazy. And so, you know, today, a DeLorean in good running condition, you know, you're probably looking at $40,000 to $50,000 for an average, you know, decent car. For a concourse quality car, you're probably looking in kind of that $60,000 to $70,000 range. And you know, the time machine conversion, if you take it to Video Bob or to Bruce Columbine, who in Florida does these as well, he's done probably about 20 cars. Or if you take him to DMC in Houston or California, the people that actually bought the rights to the DeLorean name and all the excess parts and things, they'll do the conversions as well. All three of those places, whether it's Bruce in Florida, Bob in Dallas, or, you know, actual DMC in California or Houston, you're going to spend $75,000 on a conversion.
Wow.
So, you know, by the time you factor in 75 on the conversion, you know, 50 on the car, there's your 125 price tag.
Right.
You know, and in this one, I paid about 40 for the car, and I have about 35 in parts. And if I count my probably 1,000 hours of labor.
Yeah, I was about to say the labor is going to be...
I'm not winning.
This is about love and passion.
Yeah, so...
How many miles does it have on it?
The car has 63,000 miles.
Oh, I mean, it's got a good amount of miles.
It's got a good amount of miles, yeah. You know, and when it comes to DeLoreans, a lot of people bought them and put them away, so it's not unusual to find a car that has, you know, 2,000 miles, 500 miles, but those are generally not the cars that you want to buy if you plan on driving them, because there's so many things that go wrong with them, number one, and then number two, you know, you're gonna hurt the value on them a good amount. But the overflow tanks for the radiator, they were plastic, and so, you know, this car.
Have they been converted to something else?
Yeah, the previous owner had an upgraded overflow tank put in there.
Okay.
All the original fuel lines were, you know, kind of rubber, and you know, they have a tendency to crack and start engine fires, because there's 13 fuel lines that run over the top of the back of the engine. So not in an ideal spot to get a fuel leak. And I replaced all of those.
So what is it? Is it a V6 or what is it in it?
It's a V6. It's 130 horsepower. They call it the PRV, the Peugeot Renault Volvo engine. So it was a tri-company venture. And you know, 130 horsepower of glory.
But what's the weight?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because it's stainless steel, right?
Yeah, it's stainless steel. It might be on the door. I'm not sure.
Because I always thought that they were extremely heavy.
I don't know if they have the same requirements to put the... Yeah, here we go.
Weight?
Gross vehicle weight rating, 3,100 pounds.
Oh, that's pretty light. That's not bad at all.
It's not terrible.
All right, let's get to the vents. What can you tell me about these two beauties?
Frame off restored.
Okay.
Probably about 500 miles on it since the restoration. It was a rotisserie restoration back in '05, so it's an older restoration. But it's a 3 365 horsepower, which was the highest horsepower for a non-big block car.
Okay.
Please tell me that's, oh yeah, it's just stuff. Side pipes, knockoffs, teak wheel. Didn't have factory air, but
Did you put aftermarket in?
it has vintage air in it.
Oh, okay.
I put vintage air in it before I purchased it. And I mean, it's just removable hardtop, white interior, Nassau blue. This was the highest color order in 1965. This particular blue. So it's not a rare color, but the white interior is a little bit different. A lot of them, have the black interior. And so this one's white, although obviously you can't really see it from here.
So how often are you driving it?
Hardly ever. I've had it for 3 or 4 years, and I've maybe put like 200 miles on it.
Wow.
So it's pretty much just a garage queen.
But it's something you've always wanted, or?
I've just always been a Corvette guy.
Gotcha.
So I've had more Corvettes than any other kind of car. I got my first one when I was in college. This was in '96, and it was an '84. But I still thought I was the coolest guy on campus because it was still the current body style. Because that C4 body style ran from '84 through '96. So when I was a freshman in '96 up at UT, to have an '84 Corvette, I was like, oh, I'm the coolest guy ever. But I got that car just kind of out of luck. I was working at the UT Law School in their work-study program for financial aid, and a lady that was there working in the law school, was just a wonderful lady. Her name was Shirley, and we were talking one day, and we were working in the same office, and she's like, oh, well, Glenn had a Corvette. And Glenn was her husband that had died from cancer back in the late 80s. And I said, well, what'd you do with it? She goes, oh, it's in the garage. The cats sleep in it. And I was like, well, what are you going to do with it? She goes, well, I don't know, maybe sell it someday. I was like, well, I love Corvette. She's like, well, if you want to come take a look. And I went to go look at it, and it had...
The cats didn't do too much damage?
Oh, it was torn up. The cats used the seats like a scratching post. So it had 4 flat tires, dead battery, all the windows were, kind of halfway rolled down, and the cats would jump in and out of it, and the seats were all torn up, but it only had about 20,000 miles on it. So she sold it to me for $5,000.
Wow.
Went and got a loan at Nations Bank, which I think Bank of America bought out, or Nations bought Bank of America, but kept the Bank of America name. And went and got a loan at Nations Bank, and got some seat covers, and it was gold with a dark chocolate brown interior. And I went to Earl Scheib, where they'll paint any car.
Earl Scheib for
$99.95.
Yep.
And they charged me a little bit more than that. I think I paid $400 or $500, but they painted it blue with a white racing stripe, the red fender hashes on the corner. I'm trying to see if I had them all, I don't. Red fender hashes on the corner, and I made it look like a '96 Grand Sport.
Wow.
Which was kind of the outgoing, special edition.
Right.
So that was my first one, and I've had 18.
Wow.
In the last 25 years.
So you just kind of take the newest one and go with it?
I'll always, from the time I graduated college, I've always had the newest Corvette. I graduated in 2000, and at that time, the newest Corvette was the C5 Corvette, and I bought a C5 Corvette. And then every time they release a new car, so for the C6, I ordered a first-year car, pre-ordered, C7 first-year car pre-ordered, C8 first-year car pre-ordered, and I'll keep it, the new one, until the next new one comes out.
So are you going to go Z06, or are you going to stay with the base? I'm
going to stay with the base just because I don't drive them hard enough where I need 700 horsepower.
Okay.
I'm more of a cruiser, and I don't know.
Now, is this orange a factory color, or is this okay?
Yeah, it's a factory color.
With the stripes?
With the stripes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The only changes I made, I swapped out the wheels.
Okay.
Those are not factory. They're factory tires. They're not factory wheels.
But you were able to place them with Vette center caps, or those are from an older model?
Those are the factory center caps, but they've been modified.
Gotcha.
So they have the same diameter as the aftermarket wheel center caps, but they have different mounting tabs. So what I did is I kind of Frankenstein together the factory face with the aftermarket base, and the factory face just popped off with 4 plastic tabs, and then I stuck it to the aftermarket base with 3M, double-sided body panel molding tape. And it's a little thicker in the center because it's got a little bit of a curve to it. So it's probably 3 layers thick in the center, and just 1 layer thick on the outside. But they're not coming off. they're.
And what color are those calipers? Because
it says that they're yellow, but they kind of got a little greenish metallic to them.
Well, I've seen one of the later C7s, one of the guys online that has their version of the yellow as his body color, and it's more green than like a warm yellow. So.
Yeah, there's definitely some, I don't know if you'll get better light with maybe the doors open. Is that better for the...
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. But you have one of the most interesting, I have not seen this spec at all, or this color combination.
It is a little bit unusual, and it was by accident. So my wife made me promise that she could pick the colors on the C8 when we put our order in. I said, okay, well, yeah, no problem. And when it came time to actually do it, they had their online configurator and stuff. And I built all these different versions. And this one was by accident. This car was originally supposed to be this spec with the stripes, but that rapid blue color that they just came out with, which is kind of like that bright jelly bean blue.
Right.
And I hit the orange on the configurator, and I was like, light gray interior, silver stripes, orange paint, black wheels, and even though these are not the factory ones were black. I said, that's an interesting combo, and it was almost halfway like a joke. I was like, okay, let's look at these cars, and she's like, you know what, just do like 10 of them, and just show me the iPad, and then I'll let you know which one. So she was like, okay, no, not this one. That's boring. Nah. And she saw this one, she goes, wow, it's kind of like a safety cone. I was like, yeah, kind of, sort of.
Well, you know what though? I think you probably are going to have one of the few in this color combination. And it's not a bad color combination at all. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's just kind of different. It may not be the resale red, that with black interior that everybody kind of goes for.
Yeah, but you don't see anybody wrapping this one either. They're not going to put a vinyl. I mean, it's already a unique, beautiful color. So.
Well, I did put a wrap on the top.
Okay, so you did. So that's not factory black.
Yeah, that's not factory. So the top was just all orange with the stripes continuing down the center.
Gotcha.
And so I did put a vinyl wrap on the roof just because I wanted to give it.
It looks nice with the
a jet cockpit kind of.
Right.
And if you can actually still see, so the factory stripes are underneath the wrap. You can kind of see the ghost outline of them under the vinyl wrap on the roof.
Nice. So this is your daily driver then?
No, I have a Raptor, but it's at Florida Bernie right now. It is in for service and it won't be out till Monday.
Gotcha. So it's your daily right now. Wow, you have such a clean underbody on these.
Oh yeah, I mean this thing is, it's never seen rain from the time that it was. I had that restoration in 2005. So
are you caring for them all yourself? Or are you having them detailed by others? Or
I do it myself, and they, honestly, these two are filthy. Not because I ever drive them in the rain or anything like that, but just because I've spent so much time working on that neither of these cars has been cleaned probably since September. So not that they ever get driven a lot. I've had the C8 since July 3rd, and it has like 980 miles on it, and like I said, I've had that for 3 or 4 years, and I've maybe put 200 miles on it. So but I've just spent every waking moment of free time trying to get that thing done before the end of the year.
What's the end goal with this? Just to enjoy it?
Just to enjoy it.
Wow, what a wonderful collection. Rob, thank you so much for letting us take a look at your eclectic collection. The Back to the Future replica, the DeLorean, was incredible. You've done an outstanding job. Thank you so much for sharing it with everyone. If you guys would like to continue to see what's going on in my neighbors' garages, please remember to subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.